Oh, this is a affidavit. Call it an affidavit too. In other words, it's even better than an affidavit. How could something be better than perfection? How could we know that spaceless existence is only increasing, and where and how all exceptions, exception nature, are in demonstration of the same thing, and where value is nature slash nature is value. But that's aside. I am not a licensed journalist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a police force. I'm not a criminal. Now, we have the lead ups to all these industries, and we have the economy relevant, for example, where there are positive and negative treatments, where criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments and negative treatment or negative treatments. They simultaneously show identity treatments. Value treatments show the same thing. This is really why and how manifest is the only increasing value of the parabola to math, our identities to math, because the identity is a hypervolume science. And as that which has complete hyperpossession over why and how there is cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall shared by species members distinctly, while all kinds of other species have this trinity manifest too. And where and how the cell walls connect with the body of life, plant, animal, type of animal, body of value discernment, to conjunction to the mixture of gases, to the mixture of elements. What really causes positive or negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures? Finite details. What really can be, only one identity can be so strong and still be the one that is the value of the order of the finite. It is the only one that can deal with the smallest finite detail and the significance of it. So one species could be systems other than the only one that stays positive unto itself one way, or it forces Earth's difference from here. Leith of Hadith, per science. But this is where value is nature slash nature is value. This is where it has a complete hyperpossession over our words like value relative to how it's showing us. The same way we see our invisible but still discernible. All the parts of our body, individual identities of themselves, as themselves, grouped and together. That too has a semi-nature relationship to our complete identity slash IES. Then simultaneously, not just then, simultaneously grouped areas, ages, sexes, and species body of volume. And we could not access it but one way. New Britain Superior Court and federal prosecutors and judges recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved also with lawyers and positions with courts, as taken manifest. They were backed into roles with predicate acts methods, distinctly from the overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and insidiousness of people A through Z regarding opinions of subjects like, for example, voting and the value of that, and or identity and the value of that when brought up by other people needing to use these words presented by this system using them other than ours. And people pretending like changing the words of people when they say such simple things. How such was gotten away with. We have to understand how before our founding parents were born, North and South America, slavery was entrenched. And roles with fact, cheaping nature oriented predicate acts delivery system method, which, if you will, a hyper predicate acts delivery system method and a criminal insidiousness delivery system method was also consciously juxtaposed with a breaching method, therefore a hyper-predicate acts delivery system method, if you will, worse than war crimes, because it also recorded had conscious uses of self-value roles individually grouped in together with a certain type of victim predator, victim slash hyper victim that every modern country is, A through Z. Now bound tactical ulterior from how we were revealed and are increasingly being demonstrated, but by a system that these are increasingly ulterior from. That breaching method put such sick laws and divisions and criminal insidiousness natures of unity simultaneously. It employed uses of them syntactically, where we are now, like our founders, the state hyper-possession of other communicated for ourselves than we asked to communicate. All exception nature appear to be a demonstration of other, a demonstration of the same thing. For example, the words our founders said. They left us communications. It means to discern that there was a breaching method upon them and everyone sickly, distinctly, and then further grouped here. And this was through the identities of colonizations, countries that were using here remotely. They were already used themselves remotely. Now, having been long abridged since semi-ancient times, apart from what really revealed this ancient republic for which we stand in its database relationships. Because this is a database illusion stacking scam. That also, to understand it, what is actually recorded relevant is different, is the relativity of differential criminal foreign influence. Relativity to the Earth's a special difference, and to our own, and to where that is shared with our own, because that's relevant to where and to how we make subject treatments, and also relevant. So, in other words, when everyone was in the youngest ages, there was already recorded conscious needs and means to blame other things, others, ourselves for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. And the breaching method knew that this would be demonstrated from nature to ourselves. Because nature's demonstration to consciousness is a method other than these formerly convened and left colluding with that entrenched. So they have wire crime acts and methods that have kept this, and so relevant to the differential criminal foreign influences. There's a Joshua Julian, I don't know at all. And there's a Joshua Stryker, I don't know at all. They may try to make one fake exception where they were that when I was after they graduated. Relevant with their roles with on off the state judicial branch officers. And there's an Oliveri family that had been pretending to know me from time, and they made fake exceptions to look like that. They put them in a class with me. I never had anything to do with them in the class. And they influence the teachers. So they make a whole bunch of victims. They make you use people's names, and then they change what you say in backgrounds and things like that. I don't know the teacher. I barely know his ties to then they involve everyone and their family members. If you have conversations about that, these are also like two Mendez police. I never saw them at grammar school, middle school. They made one real quick exception in middle school with an Eric Mendez. Came into my class real quick before a Mike Tyson fight. And how they had the conversation about one Mike Tyson fight was with one of the Joe DeMoros, also involved with the Eric Mendez, as one of the names involved with also his brother, who uses different names. regarding the principal child defenders campus and their roles on the Britain Superior Court and on and off Fox Connecticut News in Hartford and the locations next to it and buildings in that area next to the state capitol too. No, and that's in Hartford. These are people also on off the Wethersfield Police Department involved with fabricating audio and video transcripts with the FBI and state police and people associated with forensics locations. Also, where and how relevant is uses of the value/variable question all along Route 3 that goes by the state judicial branch offices and all conjunctions to it. Also, roles of people who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed through communications that they were aware that they were criminally foreign influenced and simultaneously needing to pretend and going to pretend other for a whole bunch of juxtaposed reasons. Also, they needed to lie about their motivations. Also, as strangers that are mixed with as the ones that did that, where you don't know them out and they pretend other. So they're a whole bunch. I never even saw my neighbor on the campus of the middle school. They put a Joe DeMoro, a Heather Hansen, and a Ray Clow, one of the Ray Clows in a summer school class with me, with a Mr. Neville. I also never had a personal conversation with, except for about my poem. Even my poem, he took. And he was trying to pretend they're trying to pretend their motivations were other than they were, because they're making it look like I had conversations with people from in grammar school. They were doing that with kids in other classes. See, but at that point, I only understood that mayors' kids and mayors and the executive police forms were involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and with insidiousness from off campuses influence, where pretending passions and emotions by the adults was mixed with it pretending by the kids. Now, these are also people that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed how adults demonstrate recorded criminally foreign influence uses, employments of such differences like Black, Latino, Italian, Irish, Ukraine, Russian. In other words, a whole bunch of people in my sixth grade class have roles with their association with Asian culture, also as their involvements with state police and forensics locations, and judges and prosecutors criminally involved with names at the corner of Fairlane Drive and Carriage Hill Drive that were criminally involved with teachers I had when I was in high school, and names also placed in the classes who are involved also with the names with the wire crimes with Wethersfield Police, switching and forging names. They have a Facebook page of the Britain Superior Court. And then when I noted about things about the Facebook page, they made a whole bunch of different Facebook pages. And it was also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed investigations and investigators of that were all, and a whole bunch of people tied to former director of the FBI and a guy who looked just like James Comey, but it was before then and during the time James Comey used the right to lie as a phrase in Congress. Now, this is recorded also where there are remote uses of Connecticut news media with names associated and with stories they have tied to the corner of Church Street and Main Street and Old Wethersfield. And there are names on that street that I don't know at all. And there are names on the street. The only reason I know them because others made exceptions to make it look like I know them. Because these are people that are calling me a liar interbranch behind my back. Since I was a kid, they were putting falsified police reports with people involved with demonstrating, recording, confessing to kids in each campus how the overt criminal enterprises, the private, and the interbranch have to hide live progressions. I didn't understand the involvements of the judicial branch with the crimes at the younger campuses till I was older and high school. And I recorded this because I already understood that and how they were hiding live progressions each year. And they were doing it with weird, insidious things on off the campuses, recorded, demonstrated, record. So there's an O'Brien family They just thought because I know consciously communicated to me. They knew just because I was living in their area. They mixed my name with uses a whole bunch of people involved with this. And these are wire crime methods. For example, Christopher Walters was influenced since he was a kid to fabricate things into databases and sequence shifts. And what brought that up, to hide what brought that up, because they were using him criminally to bring up things and then asking questions about it to involve me and others in things that were criminally. In other words, that they were doing with the kids in the overt criminal enterprises, the ones pretending to be against it. A whole bunch of people with medical locations have roles with criminality at the campuses and with the town offices and with the identities of the FBI. Reported also how the lower ups and the upper ups are kept differentially criminally foreign influence. But Chris Walters brought up confessions associated with the wire companies and the FBI and the people associated with the FBI. I don't know if they know or not, but also people on and off Trinity College and on and off the spots in Old Wethersfield, Old Town Cafe, involved with Charlie Bowes. I never had a conversation or a class with Charlie Bowes in my life. Never saw him on the campus of my life, in the building of my campus of my life. I never even saw him off the building. Like we were playing football one time. I played a couple of times. That was an exception, and then I did it again when they made me stay back. These are also people on and off that building who are putting fake things. They have the word maturity involved with some immature people, even though I know it was influenced them for them to say things. And so they've been using the right to lie where they don't. Because in other words, this is also relevant where they brought in the black theme, because they switch and forge names at locations distinctly from they do interbranch. They have kids that they child abused that are black. Some of them self-value it now because there are men and women who involved that with name switching and forging. They also have how they switched the name Bayrock on a street from near where an elderly home was, and next to the three spots at the end of the Burlington Turnpike, has something to do with interbranch families and military and foreign, as the ones that are criminally foreign influenced with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and names on off the Connecticut news locations, and names of families that work with the intelligence, with the community at the shopping centers and malls, involved with identity thefts and frauds, and relevant with the interbranch switching names and forging names. And so you guys have been preventing mandated law, and you've been preventing it, rolls with it since I was a kid. They put charges on a piece of paper and they attach to it confessions, but there's no writing. And their uses of names are forcing you to speak through others that are all involved with the offensive pattern of connected roles with their families from off their locations, though, and on off campuses, coming up to me, saying things, bringing and communicating things other than they could afford to have demonstrated it later. And they're offensively in the backgrounds having conversations with police, judges, and prosecutors, faking to bring my name up. And they brought it up, attaching me to fake locations, fake ties to themselves. Then they'll bring me there and one time and pretend I know them. In other words, like with this judge, there's a whole bunch of people with UConn involved with federal crimes with people in my area. Now in other words, and it's nothing personal against them. This is everyone forced to speak through other people, but then they say they're going to leave out details. But everyone wants to keep speaking though. See, in other words, I'm trying to tell you guys, I care about you guys more than you care about each other, and you guys are trying. For example, you want to debate that dishonestly, but right here is the proofs. Make sure I get a name for them. They fabricated audio and video transcripts as wire crimes with the Wethersfield High School, and they hid a whole bunch of answer machine messages to me and to others with the principal child offender. There were more than through administrations to know on Twitter and on Facebook and on YouTube, with where and how recorded our uses of the retired and standing interbranch on off the state judicial branch offices all along Route 3 through time, involved with planting federal evidence, well involved with predicate acts methods on off campuses, where and how they have names involved with the narratives and confessions and demonstrations relative, and then them pretending other with subjects treatments, leaving out what came first. Using those instances to stack more and more fabricated things into legal cases, into databases. So in other words, they have all kinds of legislation and processes and legal processes regarding. Oh, click here. This is a legal agreement. It's all fake. Otherwise, it's also a hyper monopoly. It's not just a whole bunch of monopolies. In other words, this is an identity theft, fraud, slander method simply to get non-distinctly against everyone. The only reason we haven't addressed that is because how sickly distinctly against everyone, every difference, individually grouped and together, that was effectively employed, self-valued, therefore, blamed on other things, others ourselves, where and how the breaching method employed it. The relevance of the breaching method was a whole bunch of crazy laws, worse than slavery, as you guys have it defined, only capable of it, and worse than the witch trials combined. And don't forget, that's still while the Native Americans are dealing with their hyper-Native identity, have been employed all self-valued roles with it to other, therefore syntactically. Now they're not capable, or anyone is not capable of using words like value unaccosted, per where how value ties to it, where we can see the invisible, but the hyper invisible, but still discernible conjunction to and as these five as the possession, as the hyper possession of space/existence, bound three ways, also with the value of sequence true before this, and the value of what is to come that has not been juxtaposed, but that has already been, that did not juxtapose with that, but it keeps in value, gaining value with it too, as part of itself. Each part of oneself, we have this in demonstration to us. We have cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall, not just in appreciation of gases and water at the same time. In other words, we have these five identities of sequence/simultaneous nature. Differential, a spotted family was also brought up by the people involved with the confessions in the wire crimes, acts, and methods with the agencies, plural. There are CIA and their family members also involved with a whole bunch of state police, interstates, involved with Eric Jensen and a Mike Pandolf, and their roles with private campuses and with public ones, and with people with the Wethersfield police chief and people on and off Trinity College that made confessions in the past relevant to their roles and demonstrations, also of their roles with kids in my area through time. They attached me to fake conversations with themselves, fake conversations with others. They make confessions about people right before they are about to, they know where and how people are going to see each other for the first time. And this is employed to hide lie progressions and to have confessions made and demonstrations made, where and how effectively they employed each age of the parents' sense and sensibilities and the kids' sensibilities of the KKK-themed families and of the Black ones. Recorded I caught involved with predicate acts methods on off campuses, and they hid this because as collusions with judges and prosecutors and their families involved with the FBI and people from Washington D.C. and politicians and stuff on and off the campuses. Little rat trap games with the houses next to the Wethersfield High School, and with their roles with various natures of federal crimes with the kids, and then bring it in before interbranch locations so they can pretend other, and they can use uses of names that is relevant to where and how what they call adults are using names. There is no integrity. And there is some mandated law has not been followed. And if you ask mandated law, they pretend that you don't understand what you say. I said, well, I say I didn't even get to speak yet. I told you, I called the campus. This is what they do. They tell people to play, hold on, when you use a simple sentence. No, even before you use it, they say, hold on. Then they come back and they'll say something. They're influenced to say something. And like in the form of a confession too, sometimes, in this case. Then they're doing games like they'll make all these confessions on the answer machine. Then you have to call back and make it look like you're calling back and not making sense. We're the principal child abuser before he got caught. Now there are people with New Britain Superior Court through time, since before they worked there, that were involved with predicate acts when I was a kid. That's one of the things I reported them consciously doing. Putting people in my class that they were using criminally foreign influence uses of my name, of other people's sense and sensibility at other locations, as names interbranch that were timed roles with federal evidences crimes with areas of overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and people tied to shipping locations that are involved with criminally foreign influence uses of the corner of Fox Hill and Carriage Hill. And this is, for example, I'm bringing this up because you guys I'm delaying more. Why? And that's part of the child abuse is reported, where you're playing these games with their little kids. We have the interbranch that they know to an extent, they know they are criminally foreign influence with areas of overt criminal enterprises and private ones involved with lies they told about me, influenced by superiors to them, but also influenced by themselves at different times, where the differential criminal foreign influence is involved. So a Walters family confessed and reported to me one time, demonstrated to me. He's got names associated with the corner of Knott Street and Wells Road in Wethersfield, and involved with with judges and prosecutors in other countries criminally, on and off campuses, and all along routes in relevant ways, like the one from Wethersfield to Central Connecticut State University. People all along those corners have ties to my name used criminally foreign influence as rules with various natures of federal evidences crimes, wire crimes relevant, broadcasted ones. They have the departments of Central Connecticut State University through time, with a whole bunch of ties to the Wethersfield police chief and his ties to his extended family members, a Mazzucato Bakery in Hartford through time. And also, before they were in their spot in Rocky Hill, near the corner of Elm Street and Route 3, Maple Street, they were already involved with that corner and along that route with the intelligence community, with child offenders, with other natures of federal crimes with them, and with people associated with body dumping spots and forensics locations involved with the same house with them, /S too, involved with them and with their narratives and backgrounds relative to them fabricating falsified police reports, leaving out writing and attaching confessions to that, as people involved with hate groups. And so this is also shows consciousness of FBI members with criminally foreign influence uses of the FBI pretending to be against hate crimes legitimately. Also the rules of wire crime acts and methods, and all exception nature that appear to be in demonstration of other are really in demonstration of the same thing. There is an aside syndrome. I'm not a doctor. There's an aside syndrome where there is recorded conscious uses of confessions to people and things like that effectively, increasingly, perpetually keeps people needing to speak on people on the side as a means consciously to hide how they could not and cannot keep it real up front because of uses from awful locations and names. Therefore, sense and sensibility when they make, this big world, small world, and then you're going to leave out details. So there is a maintenance to how they confess to little kids, roles blaming other things, others, ourselves, and the self-value of that. rather than the breaching method, which any smart kid or wise kid has means to discern. See, but they applied employed uses of words like smart, all we were trying to make them feel good about themselves. You know what I'm saying? They employed that criminally foreign influence uses of criminal insidious uses of it. The breaching method demonstrably caused negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and only allowed to be manifest criminal insidiousness natures of means to cause, of positive treatments. And so people would self-value roles with, for example, mass farming as a certain type of victim / hyper victim that would not increasingly be incapable of affording anyone using the short words and revelations inherent to the archaeological evidences as the suburbs that were designed since before our founding parents were even born, with slavery entrenched North and South America sickly distinctly recorded effectively to keep how sickly non-distinctly from being discerned and countered properly, and to measure that incapable of having been done, self-value, maintained, self-cultivated, does everything the breaching method needs to do. It does it through countries defending themselves as individuals grouped and together when they speak about humanity. Tactical terror from humanity's hyper possession over our needs to use these words its way. Humanity prayer. And then further distinctly as hyper Native Americans and as Native Americans, both those meanings where we use words and where this, we're applied tactically, where we can't entertain it and afford the defense of the short words and substance of the Constitution, which is unabridged in Marbury versus Madison. Attend. Fake branches fall to ground, and the seed that revealed by nature as a republic before criminal foreign influences lifts up again. There are proofs that the same time the legion became a legion, it was a totally different nature of legion. And like in other parts of the world, like in China, there are proofs that at the same time, humanity had the same dream. Native Americans say that we must read Native Americans' dreams. Please see that on YouTube. Someone find that link for me. There's a Native American who says that we must read each other's dreams. Because that's, for example, more powerful, more mighty as evidence that then we'll examine the qualities and aspects and nature of summaries of American history and with finite detail treatments and with identity treatments as actually manifest. So there was recorded conscious uses of recorded conscious roles to little kids, blaming other things, others, ourselves, to block inherent active and progressive means that nature gave us with our black pupils / whites of eyes to discern that and how adults can be fake and where are fake, where and how they pretend care and or where they pretend anger and where they pretend to be making proper identity treatments. This is about what part of there's an aside syndrome where they're saying things in the background that aren't true per off-campus's influences, but they were already sustained from off-campus. So they are involved with all kinds of aspects and natures with campuses of all ages and natures. And right through when they changed from different times, when they while blaming on other things, others, ourselves, what was positive or negative. They also make it positive or negative and they separate them. Who deals with positive properly puts what lined up because identity has a conjunction to what is positive and to negative simultaneously. That's why the maths do. That's why the parts of the parabola do. See, we need to separate, people's use of pretending math is bigger than or more finite than it is. The ability to measure. See, the ability to correlate is greater than and more finite than math. And so there are three natures of conjunction. There's coordinating conjunction, the correlative conjunction, and the subordinate conjunction. And then there are the words as conjunctions. These are identity grounds. Roles with where and how we are. This is hyper additive. Like the earth is hyper additive, and we are hyper additive to the earth simultaneously. And to the identity we are together as temporary / lasting, forever nature. To the extent we could discern and already have legally claimed, legal. See, but all positive treatments and negative treatments and identity treatments were recorded how kept roles, intercampuses of each aging nature at all locations, being and having been used remotely. So in other words, the Spada family also, there's a whole bunch of sisters and a brother that were used as victims / hyper victims. And this is different where the differential criminal foreign influence used, because this is where that people will argue with you, and they'll get away with it because there's judges involved with them. But if we get the judges involved, and there's a Fred Grisette, and their family members had roles with the Wethersfield High School, like there's the mother of a Spada family who was influenced by people associated with the FBI, CIA, and a whole bunch of other countries, and the people on my street involved with this game with the Colellos and the O'Briens, and with this Phil Colello involved with the forensics locations, and this Joshua Julian also involved with names that were reported, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, were involved with him with various natures of federal crimes in the past. And his roles with them, with the police forms, with breaking into houses, the same ones that have their kids involved with the principal child offender and with the New Britain Superior Court. A whole bunch of people at New Britain Superior Court also have roles on off Quinnipiac University involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, pretending to know me, as their roles also with people that came into that had roles with families associated with a kindergarten class I was in. Like a Ray Reynolds, they involved with this with a Harris family. There's a Harris family involved with some FBI and CIA and judges and prosecutors and political families and leaders of the kids. And these are an O'Brien family and a Klotz family has roles with some families and tied to them with the Wethersfield police reported confessed in them themselves. They have roles with, since before they moved into my town, people from Wethersfield, from one of the child campuses criminally involved. With the people criminally involved, the campus didn't do anything. And the news media has people that they did stories on and used the corner of the street, the corner of Highcrest Street and was it Prospect Street? The corners of Highcrest Street were involved with WTNH, WFSB, and Fox Connecticut News that has roles with spreading lies through the kids and the families, with interbranch families at the same time, though. They've been planting evidences, and with the people that with the ad placement companies, whole bunch of people with the ILO family. I'm involved with New Britain Avenue, and with other streets on the other side of Trinity College too, through time, with the intelligence community and with names involved criminally foreign influence with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. people that have been pretending to. I never saw Joe Ilo on my campus in my life, on my campuses. They made one exception after he graduated. He used his sister, even sexually, to hide their motivations. Because these are people that say and do and act things at locations so they can keep bringing things before courts that are recorded how being and having been used criminally for and influenced since before they were born. But leading before the World Trade Center attack, leading up to it and since, the courts had rules of Wethersfield Interbranch on off spots next to Trinity College and next to that, and next to Central Connecticut State University and next to that. They have roles with some military police families and their families, and roles with names next to schools who've been speaking illusions and like they know each other. So with judges too, speaking fake things into databases that have been planting evidences at locations. I don't know a girl with the name Napolitano near the community center in Wethersfield, and they made some brief exceptions to pretend other. It was, I don't know. I never had communications with a Red Claw about her. It was implied that they had intimate ties. Her and a girl, I don't know the name of her friend, that she was associated with Joe DeMoro. And in other words, they made that look like I know them. There was a path. There was a connected path of people making confessions to me and relevant uses of it at other locations, which were also used relevant to where and to how I first discerned the two branches of government's identity involved with consciously communicating to me awareness of their roles criminally for and influenced, and needing to pretend other, and uses of their kids, and uses of the how they use, like the whole bunch of people who had conversations with a Tim O'Brien, who used to walk around the neighborhood and communicate with a lot of people. That is recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with his roles with uses through time of corners of streets, and with roles with uses of corners of streets on Highcrest Street, and with uses of my name that are fact, cheap, nature-oriented predicate acts roles, and as roles with uses of religious locations. They also have, so a whole bunch of names tied to the corners on all along Church Street, involved with the corners. There was a Dr. Gilmore. I don't know what he looks like, and I never had a conversation with him. Never saw him. He's the boss of Christina Shioka, who's one of the ones involved with Hartford Hospital and Hartford courts, and their family members and leaders of the kids, like teachers, professors, and principals and deans through time, and uses of their social ties on and off the campuses, where and how the investigators were being differentially criminally for an influence, but increasingly roles planting evidences on there. So it has something to do with the people that from Wethersfield who made fake exceptions and pretending to know me in the past. They're apparently filming exceptions so they can pretend they know me at other locations, because they use those locations criminally, and they recorded consciously lying about their interpretation of my behavior and character. And there was a Neville family, and there was a whole bunch of people with Cromwell, Connecticut. I don't know at all, and their ties to roles with this, and the families on, and confessions and classes I had tied to the uses of matters through time. They have a Robert Cheverie, who is a lawyer of Robert Luskin, former Standard chairperson on Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organization Act. Also, a whole bunch of uses of locations next to him, with judges and prosecutors and people that work for the courts as the people involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, in ways relative through time connected. There are a whole bunch of, so I never saw the be people from that pretended to know me in middle school, and why they pretended I didn't see them. They were dishonest about too, as their roles has something to do with their roles with Asian countries, like a bunch of different ways, adoption, etc. With the Klotz family, and with the house at the corner of Carriage Hill and Fox Hill, and the one at Carriage Hill and Fairlane, and a whole bunch of ties rolls with that with the the Joshua Stryker involved with the Dean Alford at Trinity College, and some girl I don't know the name of, but she knows my name, who made confessions regarding her. She said that Ray Claw was telling different things about what me involved with a local 230 and people associated with the local 230. But through with the Joshua Stryker, I don't know. I never saw them together. The one time I was near Josh Stryker off campus, there was Eric Oliveri wanted me to sell drugs through UPS with them. Then he probably wanted to get me arrested. He definitely was involved with evidence, federal evidence of crime from before that, and identity theft frauds as that. Now, these are also people that attach family members to fake conversations with each other and with others, and then they ask them questions about that. And while asking other questions, they make truth and then make fake things. They haven't, in other words, they've been lying about the outcome of legal cases too. So we have to get the judges in order too. There's a Judge Killian as one of the ones involved with some gun crimes with the people involved with the gangs, and his patients and criminals involved with some doctors personally involved with names tied to my street personally, and the ones further personally brought up by all these names that they brought up too during the process of me communicating with the interbranch. They also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed that they prevent people from calmly defending themselves, and they prevent people from aggressively defending themselves verbally, where and how they have the police guns roles and guns crimes roles with the overt criminal enterprises and the juxtaposed wire crimes and mail crimes. They also have houses on the whole bunch of people tied to a Kerr family that pretended to know me, that is involved with private schools and public schools that are using kids that don't even see each other don't even know each other. They're pretending other in the context where they influence them to pretend other. Then they got stuck doing that. They have overt criminal enterprises, private ones. They have roles with spying on people, using little truths about their, they get involved even with the kids' sexual relationships, and how they make threats with doctors and their families involved with their kids, with their child abusing their kids to keep them because they need to pretend their motives for being evil, timed with the overt criminal enterprises and private ones too. Also timed has to do with people talking bad about their parents. Their parents have attached me to fake conversations with themselves. They brought this up, and they've been sustaining it. So it's been intercampuses now. They have a whole bunch of kids with the campuses intercities. They have employments at the campuses involved with this. They put themselves involved. But in other words, when I say they, those are the people involved with the federal crimes, with the evidences and the databases. In other words, and that's their sources with the other instances, and where I actually was in locations that are relevant ways that they're lying about in the background. It's recorded. Whole bunch of people associated with Rocky Hill campus have roles with some police forms, male and female, with mental health, and a whole bunch of people with Institute of Living involved with families that live next to the schools involved with drugs and medicine crime, identity theft, frauds against the kids, roles with crimes with prosecutors and judges, kept at the same time with them, kept with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, their ties to people at shipping locations, time kept needing to hide lies, life progression. They don't just ask. They don't have one standing investigator legitimate. That's what you have a problem at all locations. So they have something to do with their roles, with a whole bunch of with ties to Asia, with the names associated with the corner all along Route 3. There's an Abate family. I don't know the Abate family. Through time, they are involved with a whole bunch of men and women. When they were kids, they were involved with identity theft, frauds instances. Also, where they have kids go back and syntactically say things to make it look like to where they have exceptions of people knowing each other criminally involved. So there's an Eric Jensen I never saw on around Millwoods Park in my life. He recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles of men and women that abused the girls near and with the boys and girls, sickly distinctly, but they make self-valued roles with those natures of abuses of people tied to a former Mayor Gold, planting evidences, fake ties to me, fake natures of ties to me, fake exceptions of knowing me. On off that, there's something to do with that spot. There's a Perone family with the Kerr family, and they're involved on off the Fox Connecticut News location in Hartford, and with the religious spot next to it. I was about to show you how to do it on Facebook because they have Facebook pages of New Britain Superior Court and of the principal child of Offenders Campus. Also involved with the Joshua Julian, involved with the confessions regarding the police forms roles with home break-ins in my area through time. And these are the people intercities involved with that. These are people tied to shootings relevant and spots next to in West Hartford, in West Hartford, New Britain, with a guy tied to one of the I don't even know her name. She knows my name. So we'll forget about one of the Wethersfield police chief's extended family members with the Mazzucato family members. I also don't know. They pretended to know me off campus at a web school one time with a Reno Mazzucato. That was recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed his roles with men and women, and demonstrated next to the campuses. Involved also with people from Middletown. There's a judge in Middletown. There are judges and prosecutors and medical community with Middletown who have crimes with the kids and with adults in each age of. These are people also involved with elderly homes. The same one off Trinity, the ones off Trinity College, who have spots at the three spots at the end of the Brown Turnpike, timed roles with identity theft, frauds, federal rules of evidence as crimes at those spots involved with it. Confessions tied to it, demonstrations tied to it, and the only exceptions I know tied to them. In other words, so please respond for the Wethersfield Police so they don't bring more names and locations involved and more schools. Rocky Hill, get a response for Rocky Hill High School too, and Wethersfield High School, and because there was a Luigi Guerrera. I never had a word of conversation in my life. I was in present. They made a fake exception of me knowing him because of his roles with people involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, also with as federal evidences, crimes roles, wire crimes roles, mail crimes, with Wethersfield Police, fabricated police reports, forcing little kids through time, and then as adults using them to fake things. They gave affidavits on it. Because in other words, a whole bunch of people with ties to Central Connecticut State University have roles through time from old Wethersfield's locations all the way along Wells Road, all the way to Central Connecticut State University. People involved with time-connected identity theft, frauds, slanders, and these roles and motivations and narratives regarding people's motivations when they say things like punk things online. These are people involved with criminally foreign influence readings of statutes they can't afford to have known, so they play little tricks to pretend other. This is when the news does things that are everyone when they do things simultaneously, good, bad. They're not letting us use that to discern how we're supposed to discern using what we know is simultaneously true always. and you know the significance of when we discern finite details left out, like the significance of the fact that and how the course of black pupils, whites of eyes is abridged. So Rob Rodriguez is also, he's one of the ones who made confessions regarding roles with untimely deaths with the people involved with the Leahy family. He didn't use the name Leahy, but they were recorded, are recorded involved with the ones involved with connected untimely deaths through time and uses of the connected locations through time, where people were pretending passions and emotions too relevant as with time that I didn't know. So a Spada family and a Walters family has rolls with names at the corner of Knott Street and Wells Road and all along Wells Road who use my name criminally for an influence through time as rolls with this identity theft, fraud, slander method against everyone. So what we have to do is get them into branch onto paper, and the Wethersfield police and the ones with the schools. I want the police with the schools too. They're the private too. They have a guy at Trinity College who used the name Darth Vader. He's involved with the Stryker family and the FBI who've been spreading lies about me, slandering me with this Joshua Stryker and people with Local 230, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with federal crimes on my street, with names on my street, criminally foreign influence uses on and off their campuses, the kids, since they were young. Their roles with the Wethersfield town offices and library, criminally foreign influence. Whole bunch of people tied to a Whiting forensics place. Has roles with witness protection program, names tied to the witness protection program, and the FBI recorded with this Joshua Stryker, also criminally foreign influence uses of corners of streets, and names involved with the Wethersfield police, pretending they know me, pretending I had conversations with them through time, and with the other, you know, with the confessions tied to them. They have a whole bunch of state police families, FBI, CIA families, whole bunch of people with the name Scalora and DeMauro and Colo brought into the wire crimes confessions and switching names of Wethersfield police and the judges involved with the switching names games. Everyone through speaking through others criminally foreign influence. New Britain Superior Court recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, where they communicate other than they say, and they fabricate things into databases since before the World Trade Center attack, as one's wrote note with these roles and methods of torture that they have to hide from at other locations. They have to value increasingly each age of fact-sheeting nature not allowed to use. How and why? In other words, they're using a truth for lie. They're telling kids, training kids, hurting them if they don't use a truth for lie. No one wants what they call racism. And that doesn't have to be said. They have consciously, the kids of the interbranch, aware, and although overt criminal enterprises and private ones, kids and adults, collusions, also with all kinds of psychiatric racketeering in nature's, also tactically delusions wrought. And so we're going to expand definitions of, you know, we're going to show you how they've taken, you know, they can't even read a definition from the dictionary properly because they've been fabricating conversations with people to pretend they could have the integrity to use these sciences properly. I'm going to show you their physical delusions, their identity delusions, and their nature delusions. And we're going to discern this relative to criminal insidiousness. How that was propagated, only capable of being per the sum and the substance of those laws individually grouped and together as colonizations. And we're going to examine how that all that caused, forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded, effectively was employed to be blamed on other things, others, ourselves, rather than the breaching method right there to discern. That's hyperlearn. So, in other words, they have a black kid who used the name Bayrock, pretended to know me when I was coming into ninth grade, right around the corner, too, which he was recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. One of the ones involved with the medical community, black and white, and KKK themed, where they pretend passion. Well, they're the little bunch of fakes. You better make sure I get a response on campus now. I mean, now. And these are intercampuses, intercities, timed. They were making criminally foreign influence uses of the campuses. Each age of fact-checking nature, they're spreading little lies through boys and girls and through adults and at elderly homes. You don't have capability at any of these jobs regarding where people are weak. And you have fake strong there. So open up the thing. Get me who disbelieves anything I've said. Get them on paper. Get them on paper into Branch, Connecticut. That's mandated law. And these are people with the military too, don't forget. Now, the same ones, a whole bunch of other foreign countries involved military too. Here! I have to beg you here. Make sure they get on campus. And when I use aggression with my speech, and when I use gentle speech, they can't tell the truth about either of it, because I caught them that using that both criminally, in other words, because the simultaneous and the value of that is being denied and having been denied where journalism stands too. I'm not a licensed journalist. I love people, but we could break we could break the pseudo peace and hyper peace. Evolution's fruits and gifts and meanings from nowhere. Come. See value. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Have a great day, people. Good night. Boxing is in the rules. Is in the ring by rules. There is one way to fight. So we have aggression. Don't forget that. We have aggression with guns, drugs and medicines threats, because they have recorded conscious uses. There's a Sal Civiello too, I don't know. He was recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed years after he was in a class I had. I never had anything to do with him when he was in my class, though. You know, they employed that his roles with people on off that street, and his neighbors are involved with some of the men with the interbranch and foreign, involved with also medical community, with various natures of federal crimes against humanity. Fear of God. Don't separate these subjects as the child abuse, because these were roles, the names involved with their elderly home time too. As people on off Trinity College and CCSU, also involved with the 3 spots at the end of the Brown Turnpike. Fear. What the fear to hide and plot. I rap a lot, and you guys brought up the names. I told you, get me a response. Get me a response for the Wethersfield Police. You're going to see this. Now, Eric Klotz brought up its ties to CCSU and his demonstrations of the people that everyone, his role is forcing me to speak through others, and others forced to speaking about him. So that's where you're going to get. He's got the rules with this. Now they have who put and why they put that sign up on Randy Lane, and Morgan Circle. In other words, involved with the Kerr family, who's involved with Officer Jerry Miller, who's one of the ones involved with state police and fire departments with some wire crimes and with some federal evidences crimes, with child offenders and elderly offenders, also planting evidences on all sides of my house through time. There's a Domain family with the police forms on off Fox Connecticut News, also involved with some Jewish themed, hate crimes with the FBI criminally involved, and violent with people involved with violence, identity thefts, and frauds at various campuses through time connected. These are people using these things to pretend passions and emotions. I mean, they're making it look like other things, even preemptively, and they're lying about their motivations. So there's a Rich Dombrowski too. I never had a conversation with him in my life. The one conversation I had with him, we recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with everyone forced to speak through others. And there were men and women criminally involved with him with evidences, crimes, identity theft, fraud, slander, them pretending their motivations. And, mixed with real motivations, but they have other motivations mixed there. And these are people involved with people that used to live on my street that no longer do, who they connected with the people that came in. Like Ray Clo came into my school when I was in fourth grade. His family was already involved with 3 spots at the end of the Bone type turnpike with the intelligence community and with the names involved, like a spotter family with houses and names next to schools that are with the intelligence community where they use them as victims / hyper victims, and they use other people's names. And then they need to hide that because these are fact, human nature oriented predicate acts roles. And that extended, there are exceptions there. And then everyone's lying about the nature of each positive treatment, each negative treatment as styles of logic and of nature that cannot afford more and more. The short words using truths that are not denying the smallest finite detail, let alone the order of the finite, not denying what is actually actively recorded and simultaneously, where you see the simultaneous can be used to discern finite details left out. Finite details can be used to discern simultaneous summaries and missing substance and positive to as their with their convictions and or speculations or theory. Here should not have to beg. Fourth north, beware. You know what I'm saying? See, for real. Follow mandated law for the interbranch. And so WFSB, please don't pretend it's personal. Anything that you pretend is personal, I apologize. That was because it was demonstrated that you guys were involved with database-oriented crimes. These are databases-oriented crimes, but also at other locations. So there's a Mark Violet, and there's a KKK themed family, Justin Klavinskis. I never met his brother. I don't know his parents. I talked one time on the phone to his mother, and that was years after. I guess his father's dead because I needed to speak with his father as one of the ones involved with some military families on off Central Connecticut State University, involved with also CNN, and with Connecticut news media, and with how they have each of the departments individually grouped and together, recorded, demonstrated, confessed, confirmed how used remotely criminally foreign influence by people associated with Washington, D.C. and Wethersfield interbranch, when that's a New Britain location. And these are people also on other campuses, interstates. There's a